Hey everyone, welcome back for another deep dive.
Always a pleasure to be back.
Today we're wading into some pretty murky waters, the kind of stuff that makes you squirm in your seat a little bit.
Oh, yeah.
We're talking politics and comedy, but not just like your average late night stand-up routine. We're talking about the kind of material that pushes buttons, crosses lines, and leaves you wondering if it's even okay to laugh.
Sounds like my kind of deep dive.
Right. So we're basing this whole discussion on a pretty wild article we found in The Bulwark. It's all about comedian Tony Hinchcliffe. You might know him. He's that guy who's always like right on the edge of what's considered acceptable in comedy.
Yeah, I know him.
Well, the article talks about his performance at a Trump rally. And it got me thinking, where do we draw the line? Like, how far is too far when it comes to humor, especially when it's tangled up with something as charged as politics?
It's a question we keep coming back to, isn't it? Where's that line?
And it seems like this whole thing with Hinchcliffe and the Trump rally really threw that question into sharp relief.
Okay, I'm all ears.
So strap yourselves in. This is where it gets kind of crazy. According to The Bulwark, Hinchcliffe was actually planning to drop the C word, yeah, that C word, and he was going to use it to describe Vice President Kamala Harris. I mean,
Wow.
right, but hold on, it gets even weirder. The article says the Trump campaign staff actually asked him to cut that part out of his set.
They asked him to tone it down.
Apparently, I know, it's strange. But it made me think about that recent ad from Elon Musk's Super PACs, the one that also used the C word to describe Harris.
Uh-huh.
They later claimed they were using it as shorthand for communist, not the actual, offensive slur. So it kind of raises this whole question of intent versus impact. Like, does it even matter if someone says they meant something different if the word itself is still so loaded and offensive?
I mean, that's the thing. Words have power. Even if someone says, oh, but I meant it this way, the impact can still be incredibly hurtful. It's not like you can just erase the history and baggage that come with certain words.
Absolutely. And I think that's what makes this whole situation with Hinchcliffe and the Trump rally so fascinating.
Oh.
It really forces us to confront these uncomfortable questions about free speech, the limits of humor, and the responsibility that comes with having a platform.
It's a lot to unpack for sure.
Yeah, it is. But, it wouldn't be a deep dive if we didn't try to dig into all the messy bits.
Okay, so where do we go from here?
Well, the article goes on to talk about how Hinchcliffe also made a joke at the rally about Puerto Rico being a floating island of garbage. And honestly, that's the part that really got me.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
come on. Puerto Rico has been through so much in recent years, from natural disasters to economic hardship. And to just reduce the island and its people to a punchline like that, it feels incredibly insensitive, to say the least.
It definitely brings up this whole debate about punching up versus punching down in comedy. Like, is it ever okay to make light of a group of people or a place that's already facing so much adversity? Or is that always punching down, no matter what your intentions are?
Yeah. And this isn't just some hypothetical debate. The backlash to Hinchcliffe's joke was immediate and intense. People were outraged, and rightfully so. The Trump campaign even tried to distance themselves from the whole thing.
Damage control.
Totally. But here's the thing. Hinchcliffe himself didn't back down. In fact, he kind of doubled down on his position, claiming that people are just too sensitive these days and that they lack a sense of humor. He even said his jokes were taken out of context.
I've heard that one before. It's like the go-to defense for comedians who get called out for offensive material. But honestly,
Yeah.
it's getting pretty tired. I mean, at some point, you have to acknowledge that words have consequences, and that includes jokes. Just because something is framed as humor doesn't mean it can't be hurtful or damaging.
It's like hiding behind this shield of it's just a joke
Mhm.
to avoid any real accountability.
Exactly. And the thing is, as comedians, you have a choice. You can choose to use your platform to punch down and reinforce harmful stereotypes, or you can use it to challenge those stereotypes and make people think in new and different ways. It's not about being PC or censoring yourself. It's about being mindful of the power you have and using it responsibly.
I think that's such an important point. And it's something that gets lost in all the noise about cancel culture and the supposed death of comedy. Because at the end of the day, it's not about silencing anyone. It's about having a conversation, about recognizing that humor can be a powerful tool for both good and bad. And it's about holding each other accountable for the things we say and the impact they have, even if they're meant to be funny.
That's really well put. It's about being aware of the weight your words carry, especially when you have a platform.
Totally. And it makes me think about the fact that, according to the Bulwark, the Trump campaign actually had access to Hinchcliffe's script beforehand. They knew what he was going to say.
So they were okay with the direction he was going in.
It seems that way. And that's kind of disturbing, right? Because it suggests that they were willing to condone that kind of humor, even if it meant potentially alienating or offending large groups of people. It's like they were putting their own political agenda ahead of basic human decency.
It's a slippery slope when you start using humor as a weapon to divide people and score political points.
Yeah, and it makes you wonder about all the other jokes that the article mentions, the ones about Palestinians, Jewish people, and Haitians. These are groups that have historically faced so much discrimination and prejudice.
Yeah.
And to make light of their experiences, to reduce their identities, to punchlines, it just feels incredibly irresponsible and harmful.
It's like they're using humor to dehumanize entire groups of people.
And that's where it really stops being funny, when it becomes about punching down, about reinforcing negative stereotypes, about making people feel marginalized and othered. That's when humor loses its power to connect us and instead becomes a tool for division and hate.
It's a fine line to walk, but it's one that comedians, especially those with a large platform, have a responsibility to navigate carefully.
Well said. So that's our deep dive into the world of comedy, politics, and controversy. We've covered a lot of ground here, from the limits of free speech to the responsibility of comedians to the role that platforms like the Trump campaign play in shaping the discourse. But before we go, I want to leave you with one final thought. Knowing that the Trump campaign had pre-approved some of Hinchcliffe's material, does that change how you view his jokes? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more deep dives into the issues that matter.
And we'll see you next time for another deep dive.
Lisa.